Okay, fine. In yesterday's class, we have seen what is XPath and what are the different XPath and how to use in different ways. We have seen all those things. In today's class, we'll see CSS. Right. In today's class, we'll see the CSS. What is CSS and what are the different ways how to write the CSS selector. Okay, just a CSS selector is a pattern based selector. Use it to style and identify the elements. Right. In Selenium CSS, what is the advantage of CSS selector? It will locate it is one of the locator to identify the elements on the web page. It will identify by using attributes, hierarchy, and position. It can identify the elements in different ways. Right, what is the syntax, general syntax of the CSS? Right, yesterday we have seen XPath syntax. What is the XPath syntax? Okay, we'll use a relative locators right in the XPath. / tag name @ the attribute name equal to either single quotes or double quote attribute value. This is the syntax of the XPath we have seen. But coming to CSS, here there is no //. We will use the tag name and then attribute. No, there is no @ Right, don't confuse. Both are looks similar, but here there is no // no @ attribute name equal to attribute value. Okay, tag name square brackets and then attribute name equal to single quotes attribute value. This is the syntax of the CSS. All right, fine. Generally, we will use with to identify any elements. We will use this the syntax. Right. If you want to identify, suppose input which has a ID, the right input is what tag name. Tag name, what it will tell. Right. What is the meaning of this? Right. Input ID equal to single quotes user. That means what we are telling, identify the elements which has a tag name input. Identify the tags web element, identify a web element which has a tag name input with attribute ID equal to user, which has a attribute ID is user. In simple way, right, we can also use CSS selector in the simple way, right, with the hash ID. We can use the ID or class dot. If you want to use the right, the tag, suppose if any tag which has a ID, we can use hash ID class dot class, or we can use with tag name also. Suppose input, the tag which has a input hash ID of ID, right, or input dot class name. Right, directly we can use like this. Right, suppose if you see right, if you see any website, maybe we'll take a github.com. Suppose if you want to sign in. Okay, if you want to sign in, here username, we have a email address and password text boxes. Right, to identify this, right, to identify this, okay, fine. How to inspect? We can click on this arrow button and then click on the whichever element you want to identify, or otherwise right click inspect. Here if you see there is a ID or name. This is the input tag. These are all attribute type text, name, ID. These are all. Suppose if I want to identify this by using ID, by using ID, how to identify then? What is the ID value login field? Then here Control F, press the Control F. It will open the text box. Right here, with if you want to identify hash, we have to give the ID of that field. Right, it will identify. If you observe here, it is identified one of one. That means it is identified one element. Let's suppose similarly, if you want to identify using class, suppose class, here class are there. See, form control, space. That means it has a two classes. It has two classes. One is the form control, one is the JS login field. Let's suppose if I want to identify using class, then we will use the dot. But if we give like this, it will not work out. If we copy paste directly, right, it will not work because it has a two classes. We have to give dot again dot. We have to give. We have to remove the space and give the dot. Right, whenever it has a multiple classes. Right, first we have to give the initial dot and then class name again dot class name. Right, then it will work. Suppose if we want to give starting tag name also, we can input to dot. Tag name is input, which has a class form control and JS login field. Right, like this we can identify by using ID. If you want to identify the element using ID, we can use hash ID or class name with the dot class. We can also add tag name. That is optional, but we can add. Right, these are the simple way. Or we can use this regular syntax. We can use the syntax to identify these elements. What is the syntax? Tag name, ID equal to single quotes. What is the ID of that? ID of this username, login field. Right, we can use. It will also identify. Right, input is optional. Right, tag name is optional. You no need to give tag name. But if you give tag name, what is the advantage? Okay, we can easily identify. Okay, it is a input tag, input element which has a ID. Otherwise, the later time in the code, if you see this only this thing, will confuse. Okay, whether it is a tag, input tag or radio button, what it is. So it is always better to right, follow the tag name also, so that it's very easy to understand what is this element. Okay, by using syntax, regular syntax also, we can identify this element. Right, if you okay, fine. If you want to identify using class, we can give the class. But here, if you see, it has a what is the class here? Form control. See, if we use this class form control, how many? 22 are identified. Right, 22 are identified. Okay, is this correct one? This is the hidden one. I think not that one, but this one. Login field, which has a class J login. We have to give this JS login unique. If it is unique, then only we can use. Right here, it is a unique thing. We can give it input class, but see, it's not working. Right, it's not working because it has a multiple classes. So this syntax is not working. We have to give entire thing with the space. That as it is, we need to give. But if you follow this syntax dot class name, we can easily identify dot class name dot like that. Right. This syntax we have to follow in different way. This regular syntax is in different format. We have to remember this. Right. These are the general way how we will use CSS selector. Right now, what are the when to use CSS, when to use XPath? Right. Just a few of the differences. If you want to navigate forward and backward, both the direction, we can use XPath. Right. But CSS we can use only forward direction. We can move only forward direction. We cannot move backward direction in CSS. Right. If you want text-based search, text-based, only XPath will support. CSS we cannot identify text-based elements. Locating by index or position. Yeah, XPath we can identify. CSS we have limited. We'll see that. Faster and simple locators. XPath is still a complex one, right? But CSS is simpler. It will support in all modern browsers. Both will support XPath and CSS in all the browsers. Working with shadow DOMs or CSS transitions. Right, we have shadow DOMs. Shadow DOMs XPath will not work. Only CSS only it will work. We want to handle the shadow DOMs. And these are the some of the use cases where we can use XPath and CSS. Okay, some of the examples. Yesterday we have seen all the XPath related XPath related use cases already we have seen yesterday. If you missed the class, I have pinned the right video URL. You can go through it if anyone missed it. XPath. Now we will see just some of the XPath examples. Same way how we will write in CSS. Suppose in XPath ID means we can use / tag name or star means any element. If we want to give tag name, specific tag name. Usually we will give specific tag name. Don't give the star. If you give star, what will happen? It will verify all the elements. It will little more time take. So don't use stars anywhere. Just give the direct tag name. Similarly in CSS, hash tag name. Hash, okay, sorry, hash ID. Here class name / class name dot class name. Here by using attribute, if we want to use the attribute, we have to use the syntax. Tag name @ attribute and then value. Similarly here, right, don't confuse about it. Sometimes we'll confuse. CSS don't have / or @ and contains. Right. XPath will not support ends with. Right. XPath will not support ends with. It will not support. But CSS we can identify elements starts with, contains, ends with. Three of them it will work. Starts with, ends with, contains. Right, we'll see these things. Starts with, contains and then ends with. Right, when we will go for these contains things, right, those things we will go whenever we have, right, dynamic locators. Right, sometimes locator will change. Suppose if we take any element, suppose input ID, this is the HTML tag. Right, in modern application, React JS, right, Angular JS, and there are different modern JS applications are came, developers are writing. Sometimes what will happen, they will suppose username, they will append something, some number dynamically. That either at starting position, it is a end position. It will change every time when browser is refreshed. It will change every time browser open. It will change. Alright, only starting position is fixed. Sometimes start position will change, end position will be fixed. Right, in some of the cases, what will happen? Start and end positions are dynamically changing. Only middle position will be constant. That middle position will be constant. To identify these type of dynamic elements, that in CSS, suppose if I want to write for this, that we can follow these syntaxes. Starts with, suppose here we need to use the starts with. How to use ID? Cap symbol starts with equal to single quotes username. Single quotes username. That if we want to ends with, that means end position is fixed. So in this case, ID dollar equal to user. That here contains. Contains means anywhere. Basically contains means anywhere. Either it is a start position, middle position, end position. Right, ID star equal to user. That means it will be, username can be any position. Right, but if it is a start position, don't use the star. Right, don't use the star. Right, because what will happen? Sometimes it will, if you give star, there might be a chances of identifying multiple elements. There is another element which has a username in the middle or at last. It will identify both. So whenever it is a start and end position, just try to use this syntax only. Only in the middle position, then only we can use star. Let's suppose if we take here, right, I want to identify only with the JS login field. I don't want to give form control. Right, form control. If I remove, see, it will not work out. It will not work out. So in this case, what we can do? JS login position is the end position. Right, we can give dollar. So it will work. Here either we can use star also. Right, star means any position. But if we use the cap symbol means starts with, but it is ends with. It will not work out. Cap symbol will work only with starts with only. Alright, these are all. You got it right. If you not understand, please let me know. Right, these are the, by using these symbols, we can identify dynamic locators. Right, we can here child, we will see those things. Right, then what are the advantages of CSS selector? CSS selector is a, right, it is natively supported by browsers. That means natively supported by browser, and it will be little faster compared to XPath. It will be a little faster to identify the elements. All right, it will support pseudo classes and partial matches. Right, partial matches means whatever we have seen, pseudo classes will see. It is better for cross browser support. Right, if you want to execute in same locator, you want to test in multiple browsers, CSS is the right. It will support mostly almost on all the browsers. But what are the disadvantages? It will not support the text-based elements. We cannot move backward direction and access navigation. Right, that is only access navigation. It is as a limited support and difficult for dynamic elements with chaining attributes. Right, in XPath, parent to child, child to parent, it is very easy. But in CSS, it's difficult to identify. Right. Syntax we have seen tag name, attribute, and then value. And basic things, these are all we have seen. Coming to advanced one, starts with, just now we have seen starts with, ends with, and then contains. And we can also combine with multiple attributes. Right, multiple attributes we can also combine. Right, suppose if we take this input, okay, type equal to text. So it is identifying multiple elements. Right, it is identified 4 elements. So we can combine with any another attribute, right? Name or ID. Right, generally I am telling if it has already ID, directly we can use that. In some of the cases with unique attribute, we cannot identify. In those cases, we have to use multiple attributes. Like this square bracket, just give the another attribute. So it will identify uniquely. That we can use multiple attributes. We have to follow the syntax. Square brackets, attribute key, attribute value, and then again square brackets, attribute key, attribute value. If you want to give one more, we can give. Right, like this square bracket, attribute key, attribute value. So we can use multiple attributes also. Then here, if we want, it will support few of the axis navigations also. Right, to identify the child. Mostly for it is in forward direction only. We cannot move backward direction. So direct child, if you want to identify the direct child. In XPath, how we will identify direct child? Slash, single slash we have to give. Here greater than symbol. Here we have to use the greater than symbol. Suppose form tag, here form tag if we take. Okay, we have multiple form tags. Any unique element. Okay. Okay, there is a class, form class something. Form class equal to, okay, this form. Okay, currently we have identified this form. Okay, these are all child's input. These are all child input tags. These are all childs of that element. Childs of form. If I want to identify those childs, we can give greater than input. Right? How many direct childs? These are all direct childs of form. So all are identified. 13. There are 13 elements, all are identified. If you give the greater than, it will identify direct child. Suppose this child, any one of the child has subchild again, nested child, it will not identify. Only direct childs, only direct childs. Right, suppose space, we can also give the space. We can also give the, suppose instead of greater than, if I give space, what is the difference between greater than and this space? Space will identify all the descendants. That means all the childs it will identify. Currently, it don't have any subchilds. Suppose if you take any other thing. Okay, this will we will take. This form we will take. Form class. Okay, fine. Now here greater than, first will be greater than, and then star. Star means all the childs. Here see two elements only. Direct childs. Direct child means input and div are direct childs. That means only two it will identify. If you want specific one, you can. Suppose I want only input. right? We can identify. If we give space star, suppose space star, how many? 61 are identified. Why? It will identify all the descendants. In the div tag, it has there are a lot of nested tags also there. It will identify all the descendants space if we give. Right, suppose if I want to identify input, there are 13 input tags are. So it will identify all those things. Right, that is the difference between space and greater than. Greater than. In XPath, the direct child means single slash. All the descendant means we can give slash slash. Right, here also we have to understand this. Greater than means only direct childs. Space means all the descendants. Then coming to siblings, if we want to identify the siblings. Okay. We'll go to previous one. Okay, greater than star. Okay, I will go to div. Inside div, I will go to input. Okay, I will go to inputs. Again, if I want to again childs greater than again input. Okay, now I have identified right 12. 12 childs. These are all siblings because these are all same level. These are all same level. Suppose I will identify one sibling. One sibling. Okay. Maybe first one. How to identify first one? We can take this name. Input square brackets name. Okay. We can use input name. Only single element is identified. Now, if we want to identify the siblings, we can use plus or tilde symbol. These two. Right? We'll see that. Plus. Suppose if I give plus input. Okay, it will identify next immediate sibling. Right. First one we have identified first one. I want a next sibling, immediate sibling. Then plus input. Then what it will do? It will identify immediate next input sibling. Instead of plus, suppose if I give tilde symbol, it will identify all the below siblings. All the that means not below that corresponding following siblings. Right. All the following 11 are there. Plus means only it will identify immediate, next immediate sibling. Following means tilde symbol means all the following siblings. All the following siblings. We cannot back in XPath. We can identify previous, right, above siblings also. But here only following siblings. Tilde symbol is used, right, to identify all the following siblings. That is the difference. Plus means only one sibling, next sibling, immediate. Tilde symbol means all the following siblings. All the following siblings. Right. These are the some of the right symbols we can use to identify right child's descendant siblings. Okay. Next, pseudo classes are there. Right. Very important. In interviews, we will get right in interviews we will get questions on these pseudo questions, pseudo classes. Right. Pseudo classes are some important. What are the pseudo classes? Right. So, first child, last child, nth child. Right. If you want to get the last child, if you want to get a specific child, right, specific child. So we will see that. Okay. Mm, okay, fine. In this case, we will write. I will write up to this input. Okay. Up to div. Okay. Up to div. If you give. Okay. Fine. Then this div has a below are the childs. Okay. Below are the childs. Now, how to use this? Right. How to use this? Suppose a div space input. If I give, it will return all the 12. Right. Space means what? All the descendants. So it will identify all the inputs under the div. Now, if you want a specific, right, first child, last child, nth child, then colon, right, first hyphen child. Is it work? First hyphen child. Sometimes right, it will not work all those things. It will work for LIs mostly. We will try here also. Which one will work? Right. That is the issue with the pseudo classes. See, last child is working. Why first child? There is no first child. I think first one is not working. First pseudo class, last child is working. Last one is working fine. Then we can see nth child. Right, syntax is very important. If you give spelling mistake, it will not work. Right, nth hyphen child and then brackets. See, okay, second one, third one. Right, because this is the first one is the web auth get. That is the first child. We are identifying input, third one, fourth one, fifth one. Right, it's working and the child is working fine. Right, last child is working and then nth child is working. Nth child means we can give anything. Which one number index we need to pass which one. Right, nth child. Right, in interviews, it is very important. They will ask how to identify by using index. In XPath, it is very easy. Right, here if we want to use, we have to use the nth child. Okay, nth child of seventh one. Right. Right, then, okay, these are all okay. There is a nth of type. There is a nth of type. What is the difference between nth child, nth of type? Right, we can also use nth of type. Supposed to see it will also work. But what is the difference between nth type, nth of type? See, nth type, what it will do? Any tag that is suppose if I give, right, see, we'll see, selects the element that is nth child of its parent. Nth child of its parent, regardless tag type, regardless of the tag type. That means it can be a nth element can be a input tag, div tag, anything. It will identify any element, nth child. Nth of type means same element. Selects the element that is in the nth elements of type div pli. If I give only div, it will select. Suppose what will happen if we take here? Suppose input is there, div is there. Here right again input is there. Suppose some label is there. If I give, right, these are all under. Suppose these are all under one div. Maybe consider like this under this div. Suppose div colon nth type. I am giving just nth type, right? Nth child, right? Nth child, nth child of 1. It will identify regardless of any tag. Either it is a input div, it will identify input. First one is the input, second one is the div. But here if I use nth of type, right? If I give nth of type, that means based on the type, it will, right? Nth of type, sorry, nth of type. If I want a input tag, right? Input to nth of type. Then it will identify here two input tags are there. It will identify second input. it will not identify second div. Here we are specifying type of the element. That means input elements. Second, select the second child of the input. That means it will select the input. How it will select, that we'll see. Right, checks element type. Here there is no check, only cares about the child position. But here only counts the elements that are same tag name. When you want a specific position among all the children, here when you want a specific type among the siblings. Right, this is the what we have seen example. Under div, we have a p tag, span tag, again p tag. Here under div, nth child, if I want under div nth child of second, it will select the span. It might be any tag. But here specific, we will mention div p nth of type 2. Nth of type 2. That means we are telling under div select the second p. Second p tag of the second p child of the div tag. Right, based on the type we are selecting here, regardless of the type, any child. Right, only that is the difference. Okay, fine. Then these are all those are all nested elements mixed with. Okay, these are all nth child, nth of type. Right. One more thing, advanced. If you move to pattern matching, right, we can also do some little bit advanced. Right. We can also mention suppose. Right. If you don't understand, please stop me whenever you don't understand. Okay. Suppose here we have identified. Okay. Right. Here we are giving like this nth child. Suppose we'll go back. Nth child of 4. Suppose if I give second, okay, to n. Suppose I am giving just n, character n. But if I remove, how many are identified? It identified only 1. That means second one, it is identified. Under div input, we are telling select the second input child. Suppose if I give n, see what happened? 6 elements are identified. How it is identified? It is identified 2 into n. First, it will identify second child. Right. Here we will take this syntax. Right. Okay. Right. How it will work? This syntax. Okay. Here, how it will select 2 into 1. That means second child. Similarly, 2 into 2. Right. Fourth element. That means 2 into 3. It will multiply 1, 2, 3 like this. Right. Right. Sixth element. Right. Similarly, here, if we observe the first one, right. This is the first one is the second element. Next, fourth child, sixth child, eighth child, right? Like this, 10th child, right? 12th child. Right. 2 into 1, 2, 3, it will multiply. If you give 3n, that means like 3 table, only 4 are selected. Right. If you give 4n, it will select only 3. Fourth one, eighth one, 12th one. Right. Like this also we can select. Right. Similarly here also, see, this is one more formula. Right. 3n plus 1. Right. 3n plus 1. Right. We can use any formula 2n plus 1. That means what? 2 into 1 plus 1. That means first it will select the 2 into 1 plus 1. That means 2 plus 1, 3. Third element. Right. Similarly, like this, it will go on. 2 into 2 plus 1. Right, 4 plus 1, 5. Fifth element. Right, we can give some patterns. Right, it will select. If we have any scenario like this, we can. Right, even elements. I want to select even elements, odd elements. Right, we can go with this pattern matchings also. Right, and we'll start from 0, 1, 2 like this. Okay, here we can give even. Suppose I want to select all the even, I can give even like characters. Characters also I can give even or odd. Let's suppose instead of this, if I give even, let's see, it will select 2, 4, 6, 8, all those elements. Right. We can also give even or odd. It will select the odd position. Will select all the odd child elements. Right. We can also select them. Okay. I think you got it. Pattern matching. And then if you want to shadow DOM elements means we have to use only CSS. Right, shadow DOM elements will work with only CSS. We have to use the CSS selector if we are using a Selenium. Right, first we need to identify the shadow host and then shadow root. In Selenium 4, directly they have provided shadow root method. Right, we can easily identify the shadow elements in the Selenium 4. If you are using Selenium 3, we have to use the JavaScript executor to find out little bit complex. Right, only CSS will work in the shadow DOM elements. Okay, fine. A little bit tricky things, just if you want to write multiple attributes, we have seen already. Suppose write multiple attributes means if you want to give square brackets, we have to follow the square brackets multiple attributes. Right, this one also we have seen starts, ends, contains. Starts with means cap symbol, ends with dollar, or contains means star. Right, and now chained selectors. Right, chained selectors means like if you want to use suppose the div tag, div dot means class. We are selecting here div tags which has a class, login form, space. Space means what? Descendants, all the descendants. From all the descendants, select the input which has a type password, which has a type password. Right. It finds the input inside a div with class login. Right. Parent to child. Right. We have seen form direct greater than means a direct child input. Right. Which has a type of text. These are all we have seen. Space means any descendant. Greater than means only immediate direct child. Next sibling. Plus means next sibling. Only it will select immediate next sibling. Tilde means all the siblings below. That means from the current node, all the following siblings. Right, pseudo classes. We have seen nth child, nth of type. Right, in interview point of view, these two are important. Nth child, nth of type, they will ask. I think only last child is working. First child is not working. Right, we can use this not also. We can also use not. Okay. Okay. Suppose if I give like this, not type submit selectable. Is it working? Yeah, it's working. Right. Other than type submit. Suppose if I give text. Okay, type hidden. See, it is selecting only type hidden. Text elements are not selecting. Input type text is not selected. Only type is hidden elements are selected. Only hidden elements are selected. Right? We can, if suppose in right, this is also helpful in some of the right not function. We can give not which I don't want to select text based elements. Other than text based elements, select. Right? Not sim, not function. And then it has a is right is what is matches. Suppose if I give like this is colon, first we have to give the tag name div. Suppose if you give div colon is h1 h2 h3 dot highlight, what it means? Matches any h1 h2 h3 tags with the class highlight, with the class highlight. Just we are telling from the multiple tags, from the multiple tags get select the elements which has a highlight, which has a class highlight. Right, a little bit right. We will not use these things, but right, these are also helpful if we know that there is a is function. There is a is function is also there. Right. Suppose if you see form colon is select only input to select text area. That means here what we are telling under form there might be a lot of childs are there, but we are selecting only input to select text area. These are all the only tags under form tag. And has also we can also use right has right. These will work maybe right only Chrome browser sometimes, right. It will not may not work out in all the browsers, right. That also we need to take care when we are using this, right. Has, that means only checked. See here what it means, it is selecting a checkboxes which is checked, selecting a checkboxes which is checked. Right, select the div that contains a checked checkboxes. Right, see in tables also, tr has td first child contains a job. Right, a child contains a job. Right, see it will support only in 105 Chrome browser, 105 plus only, not all browser set. Right, we must be very careful while using this is or as. Right, little bit, but those things we will not use mostly. Right, complex combinations. Right, these are all you can practice. These are all combinations of it. That's it. Form tag which has a ID login form. Space means all the descendants. Select the input which has attribute type text and attribute cap. Attribute starts with the user. Name starts with user. Right, we are just combining multiple attributes. That's it. Here also multiple elements. Right, div class contains multi input root. Space means all the descendants. From all the descendants, select the input which has area label email address. Right, this will be Angular and React applications. Directly, we will not get ID. Right, those applications will not have IDs names directly. Right, based on some other attributes, we have to identify. Right, table filtering. Right, we can use nth of type mostly for the table filterings. I think these are all we know. Already we have learned these are all plus symbol. Okay, select every second row. Select every second row means nth child of 2n. select last third item, right? Nth last child, right? We can also use nth last child of 3, right? Nth last child, right? We can use different nth child or nth last child. These are all child classes. Just write a greater than symbol. That means parent. We are moving to parent. That's sorry, moving to childs. Only forward direction. CSS will support only forward. Right here, just we are going through childs. Right, this is in the Selenium. How to use it? Those things we know. And then CSS attribute existence check. What it means? CSS attribute check. Suppose, okay. Suppose input required matches any input that has required attribute, no matter the value. Suppose input, just if I give here input at input square bracket type. Just we are telling input which has a type attribute. That's it. We are not telling what is the value. Just if we input tag which has a type attribute, that's it. Select all. Right, it will select all. Suppose input which has a name attribute. Select. Just we are telling attribute. That's it. Which has a ID. Input which has a ID. Right, just attribute. If you give attribute, it will select all the inputs which has a attribute ID, which has a ID. Okay, fine. I think this is XPath. Okay, that's it. I think those are all the CSS different combinations. Here only interview point of view, we have to learn these pseudo classes. Nth child, nth of child, last child, right? These things. Remaining everything is okay, fine. Right, little bit easy only. Only interview point of view, those two pseudo classes are important. Sometimes they will ask how to select the particular element by using index. Right, we can use these things. Right, anyone has any doubts or right? Any doubts? Anyone has? Right, please comment on the video. Right, just right, I will provide this access to the share me your Gmail ID. Comment on the video. I will provide access to the document if you require. Okay, any questions? Anyone has any questions and any doubts in XPath or CSS? Yesterday we have seen XPath. Okay, if you are good with that, I think mostly we have covered all the scenarios. Mostly we have covered all those things. All right. Other than this, I think nothing is there. If anything missed, just comment in the comment section. I will explain that also. I think mostly we have covered almost all the things. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for joining then. Yeah. If you don't have anything good with this class, anyone has any question? Thank you. Thank you all. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.